episode 135. And of course, weirdly enough, my weather app says that there's not supposed to be any rain, and it's raining and it's thundering, and it's June. It's almost July. We ain't supposed to be getting no rain. I'm gonna talk like Jasmine Crockett. Right? I'm gonna talk like Jasmine Crockett. We ain't supposed to get no rain right now. But we do. It's crazy. But that's all right. Welcome. Episode 135 of Rickcast. Happy to have you all here. Beautiful end of June coming on up for you all, ladies and gentlemen, the 24th. And boy, oh boy, do I have a show for you. As always, it is spectacular and amazing. But it's very interesting how, the whole thing with Iran is kind of fizzling out. There was some stuff that happened this morning. Iran and Israel are continuing to do Iran and Israel things. And Trump's getting mad about that, which we'll obviously talk about. But, and this is what I was talking to Owen Schroyer about, the fracture on the right is going to be something that's going to be a lot more of a long-term impact than anything that could have happened short of a full-scale invasion of Iran. What do I mean by that? I mean, we now have some of the most prominent conservatives on the right, and I'm going to name Steven Crowder, is openly starting and picking on other accounts. And Crowder's always been like a live and let live kind of guy. And now it seems like he's got his marching orders. I don't care if he likes it. He's never going to hear it. I mean, I got 4 people. I don't even have 4 people watching on Rumble anymore. I had a couple people watching on Rumble. Got beautiful people watching on X and on YouTube. I got some people watching on Getter. I'm not a major account. He's never going to find me. And I don't think he cares what I have to say. But the fact of the matter is, Crowder's punching, I guess, diagonally, not down. He's punching up when he's going after Tucker. And it's just strange how he's been, for lack of a better term, he's been unleashed to go after everybody and quell dissent about being anti-war. It is very interesting how it seems, in my opinion, the neocons have regained control of the party via the influencer sphere. Because people like you and I were called panicans. We're not MAGA, which, by the way, I'm not MAGA. I'm Catholic. I just choose to vote in elections for Republicans, but I've never identified myself as MAGA. I've never had a MAGA hat. I've never had any of those things. I am a Catholic, and that is my guiding principle, and always will be my guiding principle. But the fact of the matter that they're coming after, and you're not MAGA, you're not supporting of Trump, all these things, of course, Laura Loomer and others, just Mark Levin of all people, just coming after us because we dare try to hold Trump up to his promise of no new wars. Now, of course, everybody's starting to argue about what is a bombing, is a surgical strike an act of war, is it not? This, that, we've been conditioned over the last 50 years to think that a surgical strike is not an act of war, yet the thing that we celebrate, one of the most celebrated events in our history as these United States, World War II, was started by a surgical strike by another power. That was an act of war. Right? And you bring these things up, and there's 2 things. You're anti-MAGA, and you're an anti-Semite. And it's very interesting that these things are being brought to the table with force ever since the strikes started a couple weeks ago, questioning the narrative. You can't. Israel has a right to defend itself. Iran cannot get nukes, which, if this same scenario happened under Biden, Crowder and everybody on the right would be screaming at the top of their lungs, well, Iran hasn't gotten nukes in 40 years. What are we doing now? So it is what, if they did a surgical strike on Los Angeles, well, half the country would be okay with it. But, on all seriousness, we would consider that an act of war. If what happened in Butler, Pennsylvania was successful. Because remember, who was the the perpetrator of that for about 24 hours. It was Iran. Iran was the culprit. Iran was behind the assassination attempt. And we're like, skinny white dude and the Iranians were working together? So people like me, people like Steve Cunningham and others point out that the deep state, the Pentagon, these people have wanted war for 40 years. At least post 9/11, they've been desperate for it. And I said yesterday, and I'll say it again, Trump's mistake, and I think he's starting to realize that now. His mistake was giving Bibi a taste. Just a bit of the taste. You want a taste of the glory? Yeah. He gave him a taste of what war with Iran would be like with U.S. backing. And Bibi wants it. Bibi wants it. And I don't know how you can't question the U.S. having to do the bidding of a foreign power. Everybody kind of just glides over that. Well, they're our friends. They're an asset. They're not our friends. Friends don't launch preemptive strikes and then drag you in to finish their job. So we'll talk about that in a little bit. After that, Iran still has nuclear material. And this is why I'm saying the entire narrative has been set. Simply because I told you, yesterday, that despite the quote unquote obliteration of Fordo and all these other things, that anybody in the know said, hey, this was an empty facility. They moved their nuclear material. Trump told them he was going to bomb them. So they still have the stuff. And now the mainstream media is starting to tell you, well, despite this operation, the nuclear material is still around. They haven't done it yet. Guys, it won't happen now, which is weird because we'll get into Crowder's thing. It's weird that they're so definitive. Well, there's a ceasefire, peace in the Middle East. When was the last time a ceasefire or a treaty in the Middle East worked for anything? Why are we so certain that's going to work under Trump? It's a very interesting question to ask. Everybody's so definitive. Well, Trump did it. I mean, I guess credit where credit's due in that regard, but I don't think it's going to last. If you just watch how the Israelis do things, or the Iranians, both of them are bad actors. So we'll talk about that. I have an update on the Senator Mike Lee's push to sell federal land. It looks like it's a big old loss. Look like it's been pulled from the bill. So we can celebrate that, and hunters and gun people and naturists and all these other people can celebrate that federal land, at least for now, will not be sold to BlackRock and Vanguard. Maybe it will in the future, but it won't be right now. So we can at least celebrate in that regard. And then finally, John Nolte of Breitbart talks about something we've been talking about a lot. I mean, it's starting to finally crystallize. Movie theaters are starting to say, we've got maybe 20 years left. Your small town drive-in, your small town movie theater's got about 20 years left before it goes extinct. And we'll get into that. So do me a favor, like, subscribe, share, hit the notification bell, do all the fun things to help this show grow. You guys are fantastic. The Bar Rats have officially assembled. Everybody hanging out on Getter, Rumble, YouTube, Kick. Am I on Kick? I don't even know if I'm on Kick right now. And so forth. Now, Michael, I get it because Michael Thomas, you're in Vegas, right? You're in Vegas. And I understand that most of Vegas is owned by the feds. But let me ask you this, Michael. We'll talk about this now. Would you be happier if it got sold to Vanguard or BlackRock? Because let's just play this out. You and I, any of us watching this show, none of us are ever getting access to that land. We just have to look at it this way. Anybody that's watching this now or in the replay, none of us will ever have an opportunity to buy that land outright. Because when they say affordable housing, they mean cheap apartments for H-1Bs. They mean Section 8 housing. And so that's kind of the reason I'm tepid with the feds selling that land. Because if it was going to 200 Catholic families, then yeah, I'd sell it. Right? If the federal land was only getting sold to families of ranchers who had 6 or more kids, sure, okay, go ahead. But I don't think that is. I'll have to look into that thing that Sarah Huckabee Sanders did in Arkansas, to see how they could do that. All right, let's get into it, ladies and gentlemen. I got 2 warm-ups for us before we get into the show today. Very, very interesting. Very, very interesting stuff going on here. And I got to get rid of 55 different ads from Daily Mail so I can actually show you this story. All right, here it is from the dailymail.com. Carmelo Anthony formally charged with murder for stabbing Austin Metcalf in high school crime. Now, this is a shocker because we were all convinced that Carmelo Anthony was going to get bail, or he was going to get manslaughter or something of that stuff. But no, the videos that actually show the crime must be bad. They must be bad. Carmelo Anthony, the teen who admitted to stabbing and killing a fellow high school student, has been indicted on first-degree murder charge. Austin Metcalf, 17, bled out in his brother's arms after the then 17-year-old Anthony attacked him in the bleachers of David Cungendon Stadium. I don't know. It was one weird name. In Frisco. Anthony, now 18, insists he was acting in self-defense when he knifed Metcalf. However, he's never explained why he had a weapon on school property, which you're not allowed to have a weapon on school property at all. However, Tuesday, he was formally charged by a grand jury in the crime that has drawn national attention over race and privilege. I like how that's said, race and privilege. Quote, I fully believe that justice will be served Austin Metcalf, unquote, his father, Jeff, told the Daily Mail. I look forward to the forthcoming trial, but it will never bring my son back. Frisco, Texas police have said the incident stemmed from Metcalf asking Anthony to leave his team tent since they didn't go to the same school. The indictment comes after weeks of local district attorney begin presenting evidence to a grand jury, asking jurors to uphold first-degree murder count local cops earlier brought against the teen. Yeah, so that's the first step. We all thought he was going to get, a lesser charge because his bail was lowered. He was allowed to graduate. He was given a lot of leeway in a lot of things. And people went, that's just weird. Here we go again with the frigging camera. Can we please get more people to watch this show so I can get rid of this? I'm almost about to pull a Donald Trump. This frigging camera, this piece of crap camera. Yeah, you're a piece of crap. Nobody wants to see the goodies. Get this thing back up. Come on. Oh, now it's broken. Okay, great. There we go. Nobody wants to see the old chest. All right. Sorry about that. I gotta just. This is the stuff. This stuff smaller streamers go through, man. I don't have the budget for cameras that don't suck. Anyway, we thought he was going to get a lot of privilege out of this, and it looks like he's not. So, at least from there. So, we'll see how it goes in that regard, but it's crazy. In any other summer, this would be the main story. But, with the war and all the other things that are happening, the murder of Austin Metcalf is essentially like a page 6 story now. It went from being front page news to a page 6 story, which is just absolutely crazy. All right, second story of the day. Trump appoints Fox News host Mark Levin to Homeland Security Advisory Council. This is a real headline, ladies and gentlemen. This is a real thing. Oh, look at this. This is crazy. We're actually getting our comments from Rumble onto the Rumble page. Hey, Sunrise 27 re-education camps. That's right. That's right. Nice. Awesome. Really cool. Anyway, yes, Mark Levin. Everybody, when this was posted on X today, everybody went, get me out of this timeline, turn on the Hydra Super Collider, have Loki cast a spell, do whatever it takes. Can we please get out of this time, this absolutely nutso timeline? Which is very interesting that the last 2 weeks he's been more outlandish. So President Trump has tapped another Fox News personality and psycho, Mark Levin, for a White House post. Levin will serve on the quote-unquote revamped Homeland Security Advisory Council, led by Kristi Noem, U.S. Secretary of Homeland Security, Trump announced Thursday. In addition to Levin, members of the new committee are South Carolina Republican Governor Henry McMaster, conservative commentator and former Fox News contributor Bo Dietl, Republican National Committee Treasurer Joseph Gerter. He's proud to announce the formation of the revamped Homeland Security Advisory Council, which is comprised of top experts. I don't know what Mark Levin is an expert in. Right? Wink. Undersecretary of this stuff. This is absolutely crazy. This is just nuts. This is, I don't know. We do good Trump, bad Trump. This is awful Trump. This is just, might as well make John Bolton the head of the Homeland Security Advisory Council. Might as well make him the head of it. Can you imagine this? Everybody is just shocked at this appointment, and they have every single right to be. They have every single right to be. This is absolutely just crazy pills. This is 100% crazy pill stuff that we're seeing out of President Trump appointing this is essentially like putting Ben Shapiro on the Homeland Security Council. Okay, well, guess what? With this appointment, we're going into Iran. I don't know when, but we're going in at some point. It is absolutely, it's off the rails. It's psychotic in every way, shape, and form. So this is not good Trump, bad Trump. This is crazy Trump. This is psychotic Trump. Super bad Trump. Really bad Trump on this one. So just, what are you doing, Donnie? What is wrong with you? Does he even know that there's other networks besides Fox News? I mean, I get it. He's 79 years old, but can he watch anything else? What's next? Is Greg Gutfeld going to be like, I don't know, make something up? I can't even think of a position to put Greg Gutfeld. It's going to be the National Minister of Comedy, which wouldn't be too bad. But still, like, what are we doing here? Oh, how'd you work in the Trump administration? I interned at Fox News for 3 weeks, and Trump heard of me, and so now I have a job as the National Security Advisor. It's becoming a joke at this point. Yeah, I don't think the YouTube algorithm, I don't think he's a big YouTube watcher, to be completely honest. And I don't know if Trump wants any of this smoke. You know, Empire, you're right, and that's actually going to bring me to this story.
Said over and over again that President
let's do this. So, Empire, thank you for a perfect segue. He says Iran brought out the rhino in MAGA. Let's be real. I don't know if Iran did. That's an interesting analysis, but I do know that the deep state, you could call it Israel. You can go, well, I don't care. We've established already on this show that the Israeli foreign ambassadors, they have an outsized influence. I think it's fair to say that. A lot of people, they control him. I'll say they have an outsized influence on our politicians. I think they have an outsized influence on a lot of people. I think Crowder is one of them. Now, let's be clear. I absolutely respect Crowder. I think Crowder is one of the few conservatives on the right. Tim Pool's not. The Quartering's not. Right? Major, platforms that a lot of quote unquote conservatives watch, they're not really conservative. Either they're, Tim Pool calls himself a classical liberal. I think Jeremy from the Quartering is like fiscally conservative and socially liberal, which is the worst. And then just a bunch of, nobody identifies themselves as a conservative. Steve Crowder identifies himself as a conservative. And so out of the main voices, right? There's a lot of smaller channels like this channel and others that are conservative, but like out of the mainline voices, what I'm talking about. And it's been interesting to watch the progression of Crowder through this entire thing. And yeah, second great point. It did pull the mask off. It did pull the mask off of the true anti-war people and the true people that just kind of nestled in, kind of like with the Tea Party, how the conservatives and the neocons kind of nestled into the Tea Party and eventually took that over. You're kind of seeing the same thing with MAGA, where the neocons nestled in and now they're starting to expand like a virus within that group. And it was interesting because Crowder and other major people were saying from the beginning, oh, Israel has a right to defend itself October 7th, blah, which whatever, don't give me October 7th. October 7th happened, the Israelis responded, and that was it. If October 7th was any kind of impetus to this, they would have bombed them back then. You can't go back a year or you can't go back 8 months and try to expand the scope. And that's just annoying. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Oh, well, what about October 7th? October 7th, if it was such an absolutely terrible event, why didn't they strike and wipe Iran off the map then? Why did they wait an additional 6 months? It's a question you can ask. And this is another thing. These are questions to be asked that apparently you can't anymore. But it went from Israel has a right to defend itself. And of course, the biggest straw man, we can't allow Iran to get nuclear weapons. Which, if the Biden regime had run the same playbook, Crowder would be screaming at the top of his lungs that the Iranians haven't gotten a weapon in 40 years. Why would we do now? Why are we going in now? They would question it. They'll tell you they wouldn't, but they absolutely would, because that's how this game's played. It's okay when our guy does it. It's not okay when their guy does it. But it went from the Israelis, and Crowder's smart. He's very smart. He at least up until today welcomed all opinions. Comment below, and I can see the arguments for different sides. And it seems like after the ceasefire was put in, it's very strange. After the ceasefire was announced, it's apparently all of us need to be shut down. You can't speak about it anymore. Trump's got a ceasefire. It's it. It's done. It's done, guys. There's no more war. World War III was avoided. Even though today, we'll talk about in the next segment, the legacy media is starting to run cover for the Israelis when the Israelis come back to the table in 2 or 3 months saying, Iran's nuclear program is still here. We have to go back in. So we'll see how it goes in that regard. It's interesting that they unleashed Crowder today. And now he's going to go after people. This is not me endorsing those people. This is not me saying those people are right and Crowder is wrong. But it is a knife blow to the MAGA movement. If you're standing from afar and observing it, you're saying you only do this when you want to destroy the party. You're only doing this when you want to destroy your party, when you go after people that you courted 8 months ago. Dave Smith and others to be a part of your movement so you could beat Kamala. Because remember, everybody wanted to beat Kamala. And so, yeah, right, Catholic Jedi, short-lived ceasefire. But hey, it was a ceasefire and Trump did it, so shut up. Everybody shut up. So let's go through this. It's about 5 minutes. So let's just start. He's going to go right off the bat. And the title of his segment today was "They Lied to You," which is a bit disingenuous, which is why I expected better of Crowder. It's a bit disingenuous because all of these things, Crowder is looking back with the power, and I will give Jeremy from the Quartering credit for this, the power of, hindsight. Stephen Crowder's looking back at all these past tweets with the power of hindsight 2020 and saying, see, it didn't happen. Well, at the time, it wasn't. And people like me who were making these statements over the weekend, which I don't take back a single statement, we were never worried about Iran. I was never worried about Iran hitting us. I was always worried about BB getting a taste and not being satiated by this. Not being satiated at all and wanting more. So let's take a look.
Let's go through the examples. Candace Owens said over and over again that President Trump would send you to die for Israel, for the Jews. I'm reading her actual ex-posts. Get ready, white American men. It's time for you to go die for Israel again. If you don't want to die for Israel, then you are an anti-Semite. Sign up to die in Iran for Netanyahu today, or just admit you hate Jews. Here's another one.
Now, here's the issue. That statement by Candace, I may not agree with all of it, but I'll play the devil's advocate. Did we not send over our bombers at the request of the Israelis? So if we were to go into Iran to make sure it's quote unquote safe, would we not be risking American lives for Israel? Because there's nothing for us there. All right. People brag about how Iran's a fourth-rate power, whatever. Iran is no threat to us. We have no reason to be there. There's a country in the Middle East that wants us to be there. So if we ever go in the next 6 months, then her tweet is correct. It's not correct right now. But in 6 months, will it be? Which is weird why you would come out so blatantly defiant that it is.
They tried to redefine anti-Semitism, criminalize criticism of Israel on college campuses. Not true. Most crucially,
they kind of did.
Seed the idea that the declaration of Christ as our king amounted to hatred against Jews. Also not accurate. All of this was done in...
Now remember, Crowder and his crew are very affectionate towards Israel. They are very affectionate towards Israel. Right? They were laughing and giggling like schoolgirls the Friday after the Thursday night when the strikes first took place. I watched their show Friday. They were giddy as schoolgirls about how the Israelis were kicking butt and doing great, and we don't need to be there. Then all of a sudden, well, Iran can't have a nuke, so we're going to go do it.
Preparation for the greater Israel agenda, regarding which they attempted to emotionally manipulate Americans to accept. The conspiracy theorists were right again. It was always about a planned war with Iran and a doomed, heretical belief that mass slaughter of women and children is messianic. Let me read that again. It was always about a planned war. Where's the planned war?
See, Steve, you got to be careful with that definitive statement, man. Just today, the ceasefire was broken. And just today, they're starting the narrative about, well, the Iranians still have their nukes. We're not out of this yet. I hope we are. But every bit of me that's been doing this since 2016, 2017, I've been doing it for like 6-7 years. I don't know. It's all fuzzy. Tells me that the narrative isn't dead. Tells me they want this. So when Stevens here is like, where's the war? Okay. So are we using the history textbook versions of war? And what do I mean by that? As somebody who taught history for 10 years, when you're looking at in a history book, it says this event happened on this date, and then this date, this thing happened. And we don't talk about the 6-7 months between issues. I think somebody says it here at the Empire. It can happen in periods of time. Like World War I happened over a series of events. World War II happened over a series of events. It didn't just happen one day, which Steve Crowder is using as his basis, which I think is a bad faith argument. Once again, why is this argument being used?
It's all part of the plan.
Yeah. This wasn't presented as an opinion. This was presented to you as fact.
How? Where's she using it as a source? Everything on Twitter is an opinion, Steve. Everything on Twitter is an opinion.
And I had many people going, this is clearly a planned war for Israel. That's clearly what Donald Trump is doing. He's trying to get us in. Is that what you're seeing?
I never thought it was. I didn't think Trump did. I thought Bibi did. And I think Trump was dragged along. And I think Trump, with his pride, and we'll get into it in the next segment, thought he could actually weather this storm out, and his frustration today is receptive to that. I don't think, I will say that I don't think Trump is in on the plan. I think he's foolish enough to think he can stop it.
If it's not what you're seeing, this was dishonest.
Also, this was done before the ceasefire was put into effect. This was done when rockets were going back and forth. This is done when airstrikes were happening, and we were talking about the fact that the Israelis were running out of missiles. So you can't ex post facto that. Camera, stop doing that. Can't ex post facto this stuff, which he's doing.
Here's another one. Our foreign policy is dictated by Israel. They don't know what the fuck they're doing.
Sorry.
That seemed like it's dictated by Israel.
Sorry. I didn't know he was going to do that. I apologize for the language.
That's part of the plan.
Yeah.
No, that is Trump being foolish enough to think he could control the Israelis and actually get this thing under control. And the Israelis are not paying attention, and the Israelis are not playing along. That's what's going on there.
Deception.
Trump will continue to do as he is told by Netanyahu.
Now, they talk about dishonesty and things like that. Sorry about that, Brian. I didn't think he was going to do that, but these guys just no, he's not. He's usually not, which is another weird point. Let's look at this. Do you see? Here's the thing, and I know all of you will see this when I point it out. If you're on X, where's the date? Because the date's always at the bottom. The date and the time. These guys cut out the date and they cut out the time, which is as disingenuous as it gets.
Don't drop the bombs. Okay, we won't. That sounds to me like one.
Oh, you mean like they did? They actually did. That's that they actually defied him and did it.
Person's in charge. And here's the thing. That's a good thing. Shouldn't we be happy about this, guys? Shouldn't we be happy that Donald Trump at a certain point had enough and said jump, and they said how high?
That's not how it went.
Both sides.
We've talked about the fact that the Iranians have been begging for peace to be protected from the Israelis.
Trump will continue to do as he is told by Netanyahu. If you want to know what America will do, spare yourself the fake White House press briefings and start listening to Bibi. We are a colony of Israel. Your politicians are bought and paid for. Taking separate components, there are politicians bought and paid for by AIPAC, by the way.
And this is what Crowder does, which is really good on him. He'll give tiny bits of benefit of the doubt.
I can't stand AIPAC for the same reason that I hate Act Blue. They support Hakeem Jeffries. But combining that and saying that we are a colony of Israel, and spare yourself the fake White House press briefings. Also implications that everything here, everyone who disagrees, was fake.
Well, see, that's what they've been saying about us. Anybody that's opposed military involvement is fake. is bots.
If it seems like I'm being harsh, it's because you were told that the people telling you the truth were fake, and the algorithm amplifies it, and it made your life worse, and it embarrassed you.
I'm not embarrassed. I don't think a lot of people who are anti-war are kind of sitting back right now and saying, why is the right? Why are people like Crowder being so emotional right now? We made our position known. Everybody that saw the ceasefire went, cool. I'm happy that happened. I don't think it's going to last, but good for Trump. And this idea, the fake White House press briefings, well, the White House press office has one job, and that's to spin it positively for Trump.
You get it? By the way,
somebody put a battery in this guy's back today. Somebody put a battery in this guy's back and sent him off.
The worst part is you don't even get to celebrate the win. No war.
Yet, the way the Middle East works, talk to me in 6 months. Why? I'll say this right now, and I'll use Steven Crowder's own logic. If you can put October 7th as a pretext to this weekend's bombing raid, right? And that was what, 6, 7, 8 months? Somebody do the math for me, October to June. If you can use that much time to justify the strikes, then if something happens in December, January, can't we say this was a pretext for that? It's interesting when it's brought up. You want to use October 7th as some kind of justification for these strikes. Are we going to do the same thing when something pops off in November, December, January? G-Money, just like 9/11 in Iraq. Now, if you look in a history book, 9/11, then Iraq, 1-2. You have no idea about the space and time in between. So Crowder's like, no war. And everybody else is like, no war. Right now. And that's great. Don't get me wrong. That's great. No war. Awesome. But I would not definitively go after people as if they're stupid. Or go after them for spreading fakeness. Nobody knew what was right or wrong.
Good, done. No nukes in Iran. Great.
We'll talk about no nukes in Iraq.
America.
Oh, I'm sorry, Iran.
Is a colony of Israel. Spare yourself all the other fake information and know that you're going to go die for Israel, which ultimately led to an entire coalition demanding the impeachment of the man you voted for. Candace Owens legitimately told service members that they should seek a dishonorable discharge, which, by the way, wouldn't be a dishonorable discharge.
I do agree with him on this one. I'm not going to lie.
If you look at the way she described it, it would be desertion over a war that wasn't happening.
LG19 writes, serious question, will there be jobs or community military members can join when I get a dishonorable discharge for not contributing to delete people or my body for the interests of a certain foreign nation benefit? I love this question. I do believe.
I don't like the fact that you asked a woman who's not in the military this question. I agree with, I'm not going to slam on Crowder for something when I agree with him. I don't agree with this. Don't ask a woman who's not in uniform, who's never served this kind of question.
That if war in Iran is on the agenda and that appears so, get dishonorably discharged. Who cares?
No, don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that.
Who cares? Why should you go die in a foreign land?
See, this is women who don't have an idea about honor, right? If you sign the paper, you gotta fulfill the job. I'm not gonna break rank just to slam on Crowder for clicks and stuff. This was a POS opinion by Candace. This is a terrible, terrible call by Candace. No, I know nobody's going to reach this. Do not. You sign that line, have some honor, finish it out. I actually had a family member text me. I had a family member who's in the military text me Saturday asking, hey, are we going to war? And I was like, I don't know. I'd have to see what's going on here. And this person was just going back and forth like, yeah, I don't know either. I'm just kind of seeing what people are saying outside of the chain. And we went back and forth for a little bit. But I don't think that, I mean, most people understand that your job in the military is to go where the commander in chief sends you, whether you agree with it or not. Right? This is just terrible by Candace.
You now have the benefit of 2020. You can see, think about those men and those women who died because they were pitched that they were serving their country because there were weapons of mass destruction, right? They were serving their country because the Taliban, they were serving their country, whatever, and these people gave up their lives. And ask yourselves, for what?
Yeah,
I think everybody can agree Candace is off base on that one.
desert for a war that's not even happening. And here's the thing.
Once again, Steve, you don't know if it's happening or not, bud. You're being very definitive on these things. You know what how many of y'all agree with me? This gives off mission accomplished vibes. This speech literally feels like George W. Bush standing on an aircraft carrier saying, mission accomplished. I'm telling y'all, we got them nuclear weapons. Mission accomplished. That's what it feels like to me. It feels like a big old mission accomplished. And it was not accomplished, despite the fact that George W. Bush declared it.
Yeah, I get it. X isn't real life. But it turns into real life if people believe it. And some soldiers, I guarantee you, believed it. Some soldiers still fell for it.
Those soldiers are stupid. We can't help for stupidity.
Some are still falling for it. Like Private who is still AWOL and doesn't know the war is over, anti-Semitic Jim. This guy got the short end. He doesn't hate Jews.
Yeah. Look, so somebody put a battery in Crowder's back. I don't know why, and I don't like the fact that it is fracturing this coalition. Not that I really care. I don't know if you can recover for it for midterms. I mean, obviously, this group doesn't really care that much about politics. Obviously, Christ is king, and that's what we really care about. But it's going to be interesting to see how these major influencers are going after each other. They're eating each other. They're going after Tucker. They don't have the Tucker Club. They'll go after Tucker. They go after all these people. And none of it was because we don't like Trump or whatever the case may be. I think Trump's fine. I've said it over and over again. I like Trump. He's a funny guy. And I think, I go back and forth with Steve Cunningham. I actually think deep down, he actually is trying. He may not do a great job for it. But I think there's some kernel of good there. Right? Drop rosaries, not bombs. I love it. It's okay when we do it, Brian. It's okay when we do it, buddy. All right. So this is Rick Cass. Like, subscribe, share, hit the notification bell. So that's my first. Crowder goes to war. I don't know why he is. Just very interesting. Somebody put a battery in his back and sent him off. So is this thing just going to follow me everywhere now? Somebody help me get a new camera for this POS. Yeah, I don't like you. It's AI. That's what it is. It's my stupid AI camera. Anyway, let's get to our next story. I keep complaining about it, but nothing can happen. Next story up. Early U.S. intelligence reports suggest U.S. strike only set back Iran's nuclear program by months. Why is this a big deal? Ladies and gentlemen, I don't, and this is what my problem is with Crowder and all these people saying war's over. I don't think it's a gift. I don't think it's anything else. One of the things that I did very well when I got my master's in Homeland Security is I was really good at wargaming. And looking at scenarios and thinking outside of the box. And I saw from the beginning all the prepping that they've been doing. Every single president has talked about how Iran can't have a bomb, blah, blah, blah. And now that Trump made the mistake, and this is where I give Trump his criticism, he made the mistake by acquiescing to Israel to bomb Fordo and the other sites. He could have told them, Bibi, I don't think it's going to make a difference. I'm not going to tactically nuke anything. Now, of course, people like Mark correctly have brought up Trump was in a tough place. If Trump doesn't do anything, the Israelis are crazy enough that they probably would have tactically nuked the mountain because they are desperate to wipe get up to their eyeballs in blood. They are more than a warlike people. So the idea was Trump bombs Fordo, doesn't really do anything, but it gets Israel off his back. Didn't keep him off their back for long because look at the legacy media. Oh, well, and who told you? Who told you? I'll say it one more time. Who told you last week? I told you last week, guys, the regime change is coming because they're going to tell you we have to go back in because we didn't finish the job. I told you that. And that's because it's clearly easy to see. Oh, we didn't bomb. You know what? Here you go. Check it out. It's a little bit longer. We're not going to do a lot more, but we'll.
This is CNN Breaking News.
We have major breaking news into CNN. 3 sources tell CNN that according to an early U.S. intelligence assessment, the U.S. military strikes on 3 of Iran's nuclear facilities last weekend did not destroy the core components of the country's nuclear program and likely only set it back a few months.
Because we talked about the fact that the Iranians were given a heads up, so they moved all their stuff out and they bombed an empty facility.
Right, so this is an assessment that actually is out from the Defense Intelligence Agency. That is the Pentagon's intelligence arm, and it was based on a battle damage assessment conducted by U.S. CENTCOM after the strikes, according to one of the sources. Let's go to CNN national security correspondent Natasha Bertrand.
Now, of course, the right will scream, fake news, fake news, fake news, fake news. It doesn't matter if it's fake news. It doesn't matter if it's fake news. I'll say it one more time because you got to repeat things. It doesn't matter if it's fake news. Doesn't. Why? Because it's all propaganda, baby. It's all propaganda. It's all propaganda.
Who has this exclusive new reporting. This is to that question that has been asked about how much damage has been done. This is a real question. It's also a political question that has been to something that Donald Trump has been sort of dealing with here recently. What are you learning, Natasha?
Yeah, look, Brianna, this is the first assessment that we are getting that the U.S. intelligence community has found about the battle damage that resulted from those U.S. military strikes on these 3 Iranian nuclear facilities over the weekend. And as you said, it was produced by the Defense Intelligence Agency, which is the Pentagon's intelligence arm. And it is worth noting that it is a very early assessment. The strikes were only a matter of days ago, and the intelligence community is still gathering intelligence. They are still working to come up with a full, comprehensive picture of what exactly happened here. But based on a battle damage assessment that was carried out by U.S. Central Command, essentially looking at the images and looking at what was actually damaged, the Defense Intelligence Agency has assessed that the core components of Iran's nuclear program are largely intact, and that Iran's nuclear program has essentially only been set back by months. Now, we presented this information to the White House.
We talked about this before the bombing started. We talked about the fact that it was buried in those bunker busters could only do like 80 meters, which is like 200 feet, something like that. And Fordo, they estimated, started at about 300 feet, which is why they did 14 of them precision bombings. The idea is like 1, 2 gets it in there. The second part is this. The idea that they would keep all their important stuff at the top of it. Interesting enough that it would make sure they would keep it all at the bottom. Yeah, well, that's just StreamYard. StreamYard and I are not friends. And so that is another problem that is coming out with this.
White House for comment, and White House Press Secretary Carolyn Leavitt, she did acknowledge the existence of this assessment, but she said in a statement that the administration disagrees with it. She said, quote, "This alleged assessment is flat out wrong and was classified as top secret, but was still leaked to CNN by an anonymous low-level loser in the intelligence community. The leaking of this alleged assessment is a clear attempt to demean President Trump and discredit the brave fighter pilots who conducted a perfectly executed mission to obliterate Iran's nuclear program. Everyone knows what happens when you drop 14 30,000-pound bombs perfectly on their targets, total obliteration. Now, it is worth noting here that there has been dissent, I should say, within the intelligence community, within the defense community about just how much of an impact these massive bunker buster bombs would actually have on Iran's.
Remember, the reason we were discussing and they were discussing tactical nukes was because the bunker busters wouldn't work. Remember, I have a headline from 2 weeks ago. It was in the thumbnail. Trump wants to nuke Iran. And that's because one of the options was, hey, we need to tactically nuke the mountain because the bunker busters won't get there. Remember? Pepperidge Farm remembers.
Nuclear facility. It was far from certain, given that these bombs had never been tested in an actual combat scenario, whether they would actually penetrate those very, very deep underground tunnels that lie underneath these nuclear facilities. And what we are told is that as of now, this Defense Intelligence Agency assessment, it does conclude at this point, again, it is still very early, that those underground facilities, including the centrifuges, including the highly enriched uranium that everyone has been talking so much about, those are largely intact. Now, of course, this does stand at odds with what President Donald Trump and Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth have been saying in recent days about the impact of these U.S. military strikes. Of course, President Trump said it was totally obliterated, and Secretary Hegseth did as well. And he actually also provided CNN with a statement. And he said that, quote, based on everything we have seen, and I've seen it all, our bombing campaign obliterated Iran's ability to create nuclear weapons. Our massive bombs hit exactly the right spot at each target and worked perfectly. The impact of those bombs is buried under a mountain of rubble in Iran. So anyone who says the bombs were not devastating is just trying to undermine the president and the successful mission. Now, our sources did emphasize here that there was severe damage that was done largely to the above ground structures at these nuclear sites. And so there was damage done, of course, by these massive bombs. But the core components of the nuclear program, we are told, they are largely intact, and it only set the program back by a matter of months. Boris Brianna.
Natasha Bertrand, please stand by.
So it's interesting how this narrative is starting, how the drum beats are beginning. Doesn't have to be loud. Just has to be, hey, by the way, these sites are still active. Just saying, they're still active, guys. Sites are still active, and we didn't get them, and they moved them, and they're still a threat. And don't forget this, my amazing listeners and my amazing bar rats. The Israelis went in without our consent 2 weeks ago and started this war. What? How? I can't phrase this right because I'm an idiot. What's to say that they won't start another one? Because they feel threatened. We had to go in. We had to go in because we had to go into Fordo and we had to secure it. So we sent in commandos to do it. Oh, we lost lives. We need the U.S. to help us. Help us, U.S. There you go. I hope I'm wrong. I don't think I am. Seems far-fetched. 3 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, I wouldn't have told you that we dropped 14 300-pound bombs on Iran. The peace president did tactical strikes on a country we're not at war with. We've been at war with Iran for 40 years. Shut your face. No, we haven't. You have to declare war in order to have that, right? So it is what it is. So I don't understand what your more risk, less explanation. Possibly. I'm too stupid to understand that question. Yes, we are America's world police. Indeed. All right, ladies and gentlemen. So that's really it for the political talk on those two things here on Rickcast. Do me a favor, like, subscribe, share, hit the notification bell. RG, if you want to throw in a second comment to help my slow brain pick that up, I'd be happy to bring it back up because, like I said, I'm kind of like, I'm Ron Burgundy. So anyway, next story up. I hate this camera. golly, do I hate this camera so much. It really feels like Flippy is just mad at me tonight. So it's just moving back and forth, and I hate you. All right. Let's. All righty. Everything looks good now for the next 12 seconds. We have been talking, and I think we're one of the few people that have been talking about this bill by Mike Lee, who's trying to sell public lands. And it's actually, I like the discussion we have in the comment section about this. I am firmly on the don't let anybody sell it, keep it as federal public lands, because I don't trust anybody in current. Now, 50 years ago, if you wanted to sell public land, I think it would have been a better proposal. If you wanted to sell the land after World War II, I think it would have been a better proposal, because you would have had a chance for families to actually get access to these lands. Now, under BlackRock and Vanguard, I don't trust this plan. That's my big thing. And that's a big thing that the hunting and 2A and gun community is raising a fuss about. By the way, shout out to Vortex, Henry, Repeating Arms, and a cup Field and Stream, and some other companies that are coming out and being like, yeah, Mike Lee, don't do that. Don't do this bill. This bill's stupid. So there's a unified front of autistic gun owners that are like, don't do this. And it's because we don't trust Mike Lee. I don't trust Mike Lee. We shouldn't trust any of them. So anyway, let's get to it. This is from Axios's Aaron Alberti. Axios, saltlakecity.com. Mike Lee's proposed public land sales blocked by Senate parliamentarian. So they can say parliamentarian. Why does this matter? Lee's plan would have ordered federal land managers to sell up to about 3.3 million acres of land for housing and infrastructure. We have tons of land that is available for building right now. We have tons of land for building. Why? Why is the land, why is there a housing crisis in Utah? Because you have a bunch of Californians who sold their houses and moved into Utah and jacked up the prices there. That's a Utah problem. You guys got to figure it out. Slap a 200% tax on anybody coming from California. I don't care. You should have the right to. I would do that here in Texas. Oh, you're from California? Yeah, it's a 200% tax on top of whatever house you're buying. That's not fair. Well, you people come and screw up our state. So no, it's plenty fair. We have every right to economic protectionism. But this idea, BlackRock's been trying to literally buy as much property as possible. As much property as possible. That's their goal, is to just get all of it, right? BlackRock and Vanguard, they've been trying to buy all of it. Shout out to Wichita Falls. Beautiful place. Why does it matter? We already read that. Lands eligible for the sale, including some of Utah's most beloved backcountry destinations for hiking, camping, skiing, and more. The Senate parliamentarian decided Monday night that Lee's proposal violated rules limiting extraneous measures that can be added during budget reconciliation. To overcome the ruling, Lee's plan would require a 60 majority vote, which is not going to happen because the senators from Montana and Wyoming are like, we're not doing that. We're not getting behind it. We're not Mormons that want to sell the land to Glenn Beck, which is really either Glenn Beck or Vanguard. We're not anxious to sell our land to especially people in Wyoming. Like, we got enough people in Jackson Hole. We don't need any more of them. So, yeah, good. They should tell them no. Tell every single one of those bloodsuckers no and get out of here. Chase them off the property. Lee's proposed land sale prompted widespread backlash, including from some Republicans. Lee said the land sale will make room for more housing in Western states. Plenty of housing. I mean, you can go on Zillow and look for the amount of land that's actually up for sale. You can do that. You can also redevelop older buildings that are broken down. I'm sure there's ghost towns in Utah that can do it. Now, the people of Nevada, Michael Thomas, I know if he's still in the chat, I know he's like, if you look at Nevada's like 90% owned by the feds. The only problem is, how do you get that land out of the hands of the feds and into the hands I got a burp here I'm sitting on. How do you get that land out of the feds and into the hands of people that can actually use it and not big corporations? That's really the question here, right? How do you get those lands out of the hands of people that will sell it for the highest bidder and that will turn it into whatever versus, you know, getting it into the hands of people that will. Now Texas is 93% owned, which is somewhat good, somewhat bad. And you could see the fact that it's privately owned. We're seeing beautiful tracts. We talked about it yesterday. Beautiful tracts of land that are being just bought up and put into apartment complexes. So, I'll have to look at that. I didn't know about Sarah Huckabee's plan until right before we went on air, so I can't check it live, but I'll check it after the show to take a look at it to see there. So we'll see, but it's good though, because I don't like this idea. Shortly before the parliamentarians' ruling, Lee posted to X that he planned to make major revisions to the proposal, making national forest land ineligible. Think about that. National forest land was eligible to be sold. I'm based Mike Lee and I'm just trying to cut the deficit, and the amount of land that you're going to selling wouldn't even put a dent in the deficit. So don't say these kinds of things are actually working when they're really just for your own selfish goods or for your own selfish goals in the end. So get out of here with that nonsense. Get out of here, nerd. Go outside. I got to get gifts that actually like speak so I can start putting those in here. Get out of here, nerd. Go outside. Anyway, let's take a look here. So that's it for that segment. Let's see. Texas sold most of its land after it's into. What? Nobody wants to see this. Will you stop that? Golly, I got a promiscuous camera here that's trying to, cause all kinds of scandal. Nobody wants to see all that. Get out of here. This is a virtuous show. Nobody wants to see this. Golly. Anyway, most of its land after its independence. Yeah, that could make sense. No, don't do that either. Don't do that either. I'm literally arguing with the machine. This is like, guess what, folks? This is the future. Just us arguing with stuff the whole time. Just arguing with machines that don't do. You're supposed to stay in this one spot. Now stay here. Jeez and crackers, man. All right. Last story of the day. And I'm probably Flippy might get fired after tonight. Actually, no, because I can't afford a different camera. So not until then. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Let's see here. Let us take a look at what is up next. Last story, a little bit of entertainment news from John Nolte. Most movie theaters exec believe moviegoing will die within 20 years. So, there's a survey of 246 cinema owners and film professionals affiliated with exhibitors found that more than half believe that the traditional cinema experience will be a dead business model within 20 years. I guess this is Stephen Follows on Substack. Let's see the 5 biggest concerns facing U.S. cinemas exhibitors today. Times are tough, broken release windows, content fatigue, the cost of going out. We've talked about those, so we've covered those. Today's article looks at how professionals in and around exhibition perceive the state of the industry. Most cinemas have not recovered from COVID, which I said back when I was on the station in the old country. I don't want to use that line. Back in my previous life, I said when that happened that cinemas were never going to recover from this because people are lazy, right? People are lazy. Look at me. I'm supposed to be a film reviewer for one of my channels, and I literally missed the window for 28 days later. And I was like, I'll review it later. So that happened. Cost cutting and flexible programming provide the most efficient survival tactic. Streaming, Around half of those who work in exhibition feel cinema business is less than 20 years left, at least as it's currently constructed. Ticket prices are too high. And the only method of making money for the exhibitors is concessions, so they have to jack the prices up on those. A lot of people complain it's like $200 to take your kids to the theater, and that's betting, that's gambling that the movie will be any good. They're literally calling people. They showed Jurassic World Rebirth to a bunch of film critics a couple days ago. They all walked out of the movie, and the name of the movie all of these critics gave it is Jurassic Park or Jurassic World Refund, because they say it's boring and people are gonna be pissed when they walk out of it. And everybody expected that movie to crack $1 billion, but even the critics are like, this movie's terrible. So, between that and the fact that Superman's not tracking well, and the fact that everybody expects the Fantastic Four to die on the vine, how are these exhibitors supposed to make any money? They can't make money unless people go to the theater. And if the theaters keep producing slop, what are people going to do? How are they going to get around it? A strong majority still believe the value of exclusive theatrical windows, which it's going to be really hard to get out of. Right now, the theatrical window is like between 14 and 21 days. You'd have to reestablish a 6-month window to train people to go back to the theater. Because if it's only 21 days from the day it's released to the day it goes out on DVD, then how would you do that? Yes, I did. It was terrible. I don't think it's still on the Crusade Channel website. But I did a review for it. It was terrible. I mean, it was quite awful. I dread to even think about that. Let's see. Yeah, it was a pretty bad film. But anyway, I did do that one. Let me see here. I'm trying to see if I'm checking out my Substack that I used to do movie films on or movie reviews on, and I don't know if I put it on this one. I don't think I did. I'll just check it real quick. No. Yeah. No, I didn't. I remember reviewing it, and I put it on the Crusade Channel website, but I didn't put it here. So, oh well. Anyway, but yes, I did, and that wasn't good. That wasn't good at all. 5 years after the pandemic forced a total shutdown of cinemas, the exhibition sector is still navigating a fragile recovery. Audiences have returned, but not in full force. And this is just in different cities. Was that Ukraine? How is Ukraine even on this? Or just top cinema admissions? Crazy. These are countries. Where's the United States? We're not very high up, are we? Interesting. Today's interviewees all work in the domestic sector, U.S. and Canada, which has experienced a 75% recovery in the same period. Only 1 in 8 exhibition executive we spoke to said that their business had fully recovered. What helped them recover? Those closest to the coal face actually operating. Top ranking was reduced staffing operation costs. 58% said that they did. So very interesting. What is the future of cinema business? When asked how long the cinema business has left, they see split into 2 camps. Exhibition executives were most likely to say more than 20 years at 45%, and most likely predicted under 5 years, 6%. Just under half of those who work in exhibition feel the business has less than 20 years left. First, the big thing is the theatrical windows. That's the big thing, is that yeah, I can drop a link to my Substack right now. I don't have that film reviewed in there. But I'll be more than happy to drop a link to my Substack right here. Let's see. View site. Yeah. There it is. I usually put out the Substack, I put out one video from the show, And then I try to put out all the movie reviews that I do on there. So, yep. So they're talking about the big thing is the release window. And that's, unless they fix the release window, it's not going to get any better. So it's very interesting that COVID killed it, which we all thought was going to happen. And the fact that streaming is not going to help it either. But they also have to deal with the fact that the product that they're selling is not good. And the people who produce said product, your actors, they don't like the general public. Look at Rachel Zegler. She hates the general public. She is not a fan of the general public. So why would people go see her films? And look at, somebody who has done nothing but go above and beyond to try and endear himself to the public, Tom Cruise. People still didn't go out and see his film. So actors have really damaged their brand by being available 7 days a week. Denzel Washington has a great quote about being on social media. He said, if you want people to come see your movie on Friday, don't be on social media Monday through Thursday. Because if you give them too much of you, they're not gonna have that desire to go see the film, which I think there's a lot to be said there. But first of all, the idea, I know. Did you see that? Is that confirmed? Is that confirmed that she's been cast as Maria? I don't know how this woman keeps getting work. Let me see if that's true. Rachel Zegler cast as Maria in Sound. She's not even like Italian. Oh no, she's Polish, right? She's in talks. She's in talks to play Maria. That's terrible. The protagonist. No, don't do that. Don't do that. I mean, the Von Trapp family are, at least before they went completely, at least the mom. Anyway, yeah, look at Rachel Zegler. Please don't cast her in that unless you want to lose more money. But they just don't understand. But yeah, that's the idea here. She is the polar opposite of Julie Andrews. Here's the problem with Rachel Zegler. She's 24 years old. She's 24 years old and she's never had anybody tell her she's wrong. Anybody within her circle. Her parents obviously didn't do this because she's a spoiled brat. No, I don't know if she's ever had boyfriends or whatever, but they never, said anything. They were probably all little beta theater guys who were just happy that a girl held their hand. So there's never been a guy, and I have to stress, a guy that's been like, you need to just shut up for 5 minutes. And I don't mean that in a mean way, but somebody lovingly just saying, hey, can you just shut your mouth for 5 minutes, please? You're hurting yourself. Yeah, you're talented, but nobody likes you because you're a spoiled brat. But that's a different conversation for a different day. The entitlement of women in general in this day and age. But yeah, movie theaters probably don't have more than 20 years outside of your IMAXs and your PLSs, your premium large PLFs, premium large formats, or premium large screens. It's one of those two. Your small town movie theater, it just can't keep up with the times, as in they need to be upgraded. It costs a lot of money to upgrade them. So the movie theater that I go to is one that serves food. It's called the Grand Avenue. Grand something in Belton. And it's got nice chairs, good food. And they only charge $7 for a ticket. You know why? Because they make all their money on food, and that's the minimum they can charge. And so that's going to be the future of it. Are you talking about Mangione? Are you talking about the Luigi Mangione? Is that who we're talking about here? Let me see if I can work for you, brother. Let's see. Luigi Mangione. Let me see if that, start. Yep, latest thing we got was April 1st. Is that what we're talking about? Luigi Mangione? Yeah, okay. Well, let me work for you, bud. Real time. So this was 3 months ago. And we covered it. DOJ seeks death penalty for Luigi Mangione. That's pretty much it. They set the death penalty. The case is supposed to happen sometime this summer. I think sometime in June or July. So as of right now, the DOJ has looked for, all these things, between him and Metcalf. True crime would have been the main stories, but they've been kind of pushed to the back burner with other stuff. But it's kind of interesting. It's going to be like every housewife that loves true crime. This is like their Super Bowl. This is their Super Bowl right here. It's going to be must see, must watch television. Oh, Luigi, whatever. Get out of here, you nonsense. Go clean the kitchen. But like, why is this thing doing that? I turned all that stuff off. Anyway, I'm going to have to figure this out. Maybe I'm going to have to punch. The gesture images are all off. Off. All of it. Anyway, so there you go, Luigi. I'm sorry, Michael. That's the latest on Luigi Mangione. All right, ladies and gentlemen. That is it for this episode of Rickcast, as I will now start to fight and punch my camera that is still not working. I'm going to unplug it and replug that thing back in. Johnny 5 over here. Me and Johnny 5 are going to have at it. Anyway, thank you for hanging out with me here on Rickcast. Please do me a favor. On your way out, like, subscribe, share, hit the notification bell. Do all the fun buttons. Help the show grow. It doesn't grow unless you guys help me. Please consider doing that. I will talk to you all tomorrow. God bless. And until that day comes, free Dexter Taylor. Don't you do anything, Flippy.